In this video, I'm going to help you drastically improve your decision making when it comes to playing tournaments, customs, ranked, or even creative. You see, the thing about a ton of Fortnite players is that they have all the needed fundamentals to succeed to the very highest caliber and make thousands of dollars in earnings. Some of these players I see have better mechanics than pros, aim that is more than good enough to perform to a super high standard, and game sense that is overall pretty solid. But the lack of success all comes down to one thing: terrible decision making. In today's video, I'm not only going over how to improve your decision making, but I'll also talk about things never spoken about on Fortnite competitive YouTube when it comes to always making the right calls. As with everything, improving decision making takes time and effort. But after this video, you will have the needed knowledge to build a playstyle that revolves around consistently making the right calls. The first thing we need to understand in order to master decision making is something called expected value decisions. You have positive and negative expected value decisions. And if an expected value of a decision is positive, that means that on average, you will succeed in making that decision. For you, this can for example be something as simple as taking a 50-50 off spawn, making a call to go for a pre-edit on a team in moving, or jumping in on a player when fighting in mid-game. On the other side, if the expected value of a decision is negative, that means that you on average will not find success in making that decision. Every single one of you watching will have different positive and negative expected value decisions. And if you can pinpoint exactly the ones that are positive and negative, you will way easier be able to consistently make great choices in the games you play. One thing I see super often is players wanting to make a play for height, and in most cases, if they full commit to that play, they will succeed. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, people don't make a clear choice and half-ass the attempt. Not fully committing to the choices you make will ensure that you forever stay at a mediocre level in competitive. Of course, before making a choice to go for height, you must know that you have consistent enough mechanics to not mess up when going for it, and you must have confidence in potentially fighting the other team that is currently up there. If you can find 5 positive expected value decisions that are high risk, high reward in the end games you play, you will basically have a strategy ready that will heavily limit the luck aspect that so many young players unfortunately play to. To simplify some of these things, you can for example make it a rule that if the team on height is using wood in second moving, you commit to it as long as you have 500 mats, and you ensure that you full commit. Or secondly, you can full commit to height early on in an end game if you see that the zones have a high probability of pulling over major elevation changes, like the big mountains on the map. These high-risk, high-reward plays are essential that you're able to call out to your teammates. Having some guts and taking a risks when the potential outcome is so much greater than the risk itself will make you infinitely better at competitive. Having these rules in place before playing tournaments also makes the times things don't work out so much easier. Because if you follow your plan, you know you did what statistically speaking was the right thing to do, you can make decisions for everything, early, mid, and end game. But specifically in end games, it's so easy to plan for success. Yet nobody seems to be doing it because of a considerable lack of confidence. It seems like people would rather play their endgames being mediocre and getting top 7s 3 times in a row, rather than dying once super early in one endgame and winning the 2 other games. The same can be said for going for eliminations in endgames. Most players would rather take a chance on fighting 3 players on backside, rather than full committing to fighting a team on the front side. Now, the risk to reward ratio on that call is definitely not worth it, as not only is the chance super high that someone will come from behind you if you look for your frags on the backside, but the players not on front side most of the time have no mats, meaning 1 kill at the front of the moving zones will probably be worth 4 to 5 elims on the backside. All these small choices makes all the difference in the world in how consistent you're able to perform. And if you're able to adapt a playstyle around taking the right risks consistently, you'll see massive success in competitive Fortnite. The most common misconception with decision making is that the quality of your decisions is based on the outcome. If you want to succeed competitively, it is detrimental that you understand that a good decision can lead to a bad outcome and vice versa. Sadly though, in the Fortnite community, this is not yet understood, and people solely base their level of decision making on whether or not a singular call worked out in a given game they played. The problem with this mentality that seemingly everyone has is that you can play one game where a great play doesn't work out and think that play was bad for the rest of your career, when that one game you played was the one game out of 100 where it didn't actually give you the wanted result. This is exactly why it is so important to understand expected value decisions like we talked about earlier. When you are fundamentally insane at the game like so many of you guys watching are, only 2 factors will determine how good you perform in tournaments, and that is luck and the quality of your decisions. I challenge you to take more high-risk, high-reward opportunities in the upcoming tournaments. Go for the plays you know are good, and do so with the mentality that this is objectively speaking a great opportunity. Don't do it with the mentality that this might go wrong. Thinking about the decision-making process rather than outcomes will make it so much easier to consistently make the right calls. I also quickly gotta talk about one thing I see super often, and that is players getting second in, for example, a solo victory cash cup, saying they're so unlucky and that they played perfectly. And although there is no denying that luck can sometimes play a big role in winning games in solo victory cash cups, being able to make hard decisions that will pay off later in the moving zones is crucial if you want to earn consistently in these tournaments. The problem a lot of people that get these second places encounter is a very human thing, and that is the fact that they want to feel good now. So in the heat of the moment, when we play these moving zones, taking a risky opportunity that might cause us to go down quickly will be a tough call to make, because we can hang in there without taking any risk until top 5, 3, or even until second place, thinking that because we got a top 2, we must have played a good game. In reality, however, it doesn't matter that we get a top 2 or top 50. The only thing that matters is winning, and to ensure a win, we can have some rules as previously discussed. In the majority of solo victory cash cup games, 3 medkits is not enough to win. So if we have 3 medkits going into the second to last moving zone, we shouldn't just play risk-free and pray to get lucky. It is much better to take an opportunity to eliminate someone on front side and double the amount of medkits to 6, because with 6 medkits, chances are extremely high that we win the heal off and take home the 100. Now, of course, you probably will win the heal off with 3 medkits 20% of the time, so 1 in 5 games. But I am much happier dying knowing I went for a game-winning play, rather than dying in second place because I tried playing risk-free and basing my success off of whether I got lucky or not. Let me tell you, that is not how professional players do it. Lastly, a lot of teams can find themselves sometimes doing good in really hard lobbies, and other times mess up badly when they're playing against the best. One thing that can help tremendously under these circumstances is having a team identity. What I mean by having a team identity is basically just going into, for example, a final game with a set mindset of how you're going to play. You can think that your identity is an aggressive team. That means that you play aggressively to get your storm surge and play for good positions by being confident. Or you can go into your final game with the identity of playing strategic and passive. Then you obviously try to avoid risk at all costs and play a very methodical game. By having this pre-planned mindset, you'll ensure that your decisions throughout important games stay consistent, which can greatly help out considering a passive-aggressive playstyle can sometimes be much harder to play compared to a aggressive playstyle, or just a passive one. You can take this team identity as far as you'd like. A team identity I've always had is the one that me and my duo will always be a team that never gives up. Meaning, even if we do terribly in our first 7 games, we still try and do our best in the final 3. This identity has saved plenty of terrible tournament placements, and has even ended in me getting some of my best placements ever. Before I adapted this identity, I would never come back in the tournaments I played, where I had a rough start. In solos, having an identity has also helped me stay consistent. Ever since I adapted the mentality that I'm a passive player until endgame, I have performed way better. I found that fighting in mid games was not something I was particularly good at, but when it came to endgames, I consistently saw success even when straight up being hyper aggressive. Thank you guys so much for watching, and best of luck in your decision making journey. Don't be like everyone else. If you see a big risk, a big reward opportunity, go for it, and don't call your decisions bad even if the outcomes are bad every once in a while.